Welcome back to the Charismatic Voice. Today's video is going to be a little bit different than what you may have seen on this channel before because I'll be using some fancy software to analyze the voice so we can see what the heck is actually going on. I wanted to do this because this singer's performance of overtone singing is the most incredible that I have ever encountered. And it's almost too amazing for ears to believe, so we're going to use our eyes to believe it too. Let's get to it.
Hello, I am Anna-Maria and I'm an overtone singer, and I'm going to tell you something about polyphonic singing today. Overtone singing is a voice technique where one person sings two notes at the same time. So this was the overtone scale on one fundamental. I can also choose an overtone and move the fundamental.
All right, I'm gonna stop it there. If your mind isn't already blown, it should be, because what she's doing is incredible. This overtone singing is essentially picking one main pitch to sing with your vocal folds. We're going to call that the fundamental. I'll describe some more about that in a bit. And then she is modulating her vocal tract so much that she's able to create another very easily identifiable pitch above that original pitch that she's singing. And then in the second demonstration, she is already beginning to show us just like the tiniest inkling of how much control she has of that modulation on top. It is really, truly mind-boggling and very exciting. By the way, Anna-Maria Hefele is from Germany, and she's been doing this for quite a while. This is sometimes called throat singing. Some cultures practice it. There's different kinds of throat singing. Often we'll say overtone singing to sort of distinguish between other kinds of throat singing as well. So I'm going to dive into this really deeply, but I want to go back just a little bit and check out the first time she did it, and then we're going to look at what this visually appears as in a spectrogram.
Sings two notes at the same time.
And you can see that her mouth isn't moving a whole bunch to create this. It's often very tiny movements, mostly about tongue movements, kind of between E, U, and R, making little tiny adjustments in there to highlight certain resonances that are essentially happening from here up. Okay, let's go over to Izotope's RX8. We're going to check out a spectrogram, which is a visual representation of this. So I'm over here in RX8 now. This is one of my favorite pieces of software to just see what a voice looks like. I'll give you a little bit of orientation here. On the left-hand side, over here in this area, we've got essentially time. So this is the timestamp here. And then on the right-hand side, so the y-axis, that is frequency. Frequency relates to how high or low a pitch is. If a pitch is really low, it's a low frequency. So down here, and then really high, that's going to be a fast frequency. So 20,000 kilohertz, for example, that's going to be a really high pitch. I'm going to switch to this hand, it'll be easier to see. So if we're just to take a look at this section right in here, this note, it's a pitch right here that she's singing. what she's calling the fundamental frequency. That is the pitch that the vocal folds are phonating at. So the vocal folds, right, the air comes up and they start going waka, 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 right? That's them colliding. Now, right in this area, this is going to be, oh, by the way, you can see over down here in this cursor area, you can see as I slide along with the hand, you can see about how many hertz it's going to be. So this is going to be around 270 hertz for where that fundamental frequency is. That means that her vocal folds are going waka, waka, waka 270 times per second. That is your fundamental frequency. Now, above that, this entire area is essentially highlighting different resonances of that fundamental frequency. This is why it gets so dang impressive, because she's able to shift it very carefully to make a second pitch so apparent that it actually gets a little bit louder than the fundamental frequency. That is mind-boggling. I hear this occasionally happen in certain opera singers, or maybe the first overtone or the octave right above will be really bright and loud, but the control that she has is extraordinary. And you can see it here. When something is brighter in this software, by the way, that means it's louder. So this pitch right here, that's your fundamental. And then going above, these are different overtones. This is the first overtone, second overtone, third overtone here. So that guy is actually brighter than this one down here. And you'll see this one's brighter too. And she's shifting which overtone she is making brighter. So she's able to sense that and shift it in there. It's really cool. Another way we can look at this is up here. You can see I just shifted this thing above. I can actually see all of the different exact hertz. So that fundamental frequency here, you can see is 200 and it's about 275 hertz. And this is the next one. Little orientation here. X-axis is going to be the hertz, so how fast per second the vocal folds are vibrating, meaning that there. This is actually just an overtone, so that's how quickly that sound wave is bouncing around inside to create this very, very clear overtone. And then over here, you have the volume. It's just in dB. So you can see that this overtone, the third one, at 11,000 hertz, that overtone is louder than her fundamental frequency. Okay, let's listen to this from right here. It's just, that is insane. I've never heard anybody live have this much control over overtone singing. It's really, really mind-boggling to me. I'm going to go back to the video now. Let's pick up from where we left off.
So this was the overtone scale on one fundamental. I can also choose an overtone and move the fundamental.
It's so good. Okay, back to Izotope. I want to show you what that looks like here. So this section is the part that she just sang. And by the way, if you see this stuff that's in between, that is all going to just be white noise. That's room noise. And it doesn't have a really clear bright area, meaning that there's no identifiable pitch. And things like S's, those sibilants also are not going to show up as one bright pitch the way that you see here. Now, if we zoom in just a little bit, this is fun. This is so cool. So this time she's moving the fundamental pitch. That means that the rate that the true vocal folds are going at, that is changing this time. Last time the true vocal folds were going at the exact same speed the whole time, and she was modulating the resonance on top. This time, she's moving the pitch from the true vocal folds. So they're going faster or slower to create a higher or lower pitch. And on top, she's still modulating that, but she's modulating it to maintain the same pitch of overtones. Again, my mind exploded when I heard this the first time. I'm just like crazy, crazy, crazy. So if we look in here, if I grab my hand tool, this part right up top, you see how that stays bright the whole time? She loses a little bit of brightness on this one, but she's able to maintain what sounds like a constant pitch right up there while moving her fundamental. Okay, let's listen to that. And at the end, just for kicks, she did a little thing where she made essentially a little arpeggio where she was moving the overtone a whole bunch. By the way, when you see little wiggles like there or right in here, those wiggles are vibrato. Kind of cool. And you see tons of overtones that are happening above as well, right? You see like, oh, that's your fundamental, then 1, 2, 3, fourth. The fourth overtone is the one she highlights with that first bit. You see 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There's at least 14 actually fairly prominent overtones in this. And you've got some more above as well. There are times when they're brighter. Usually when somebody has really good resonance, you're going to see these overtones really brighten up. You'll see more amplitude or volume essentially occurring in the overtones. That means that they've shaped their vocal track above so that there is more resonance inside to highlight certain parts of a sound wave. It's kind of crazy and kind of amazing. Okay, let's go back. Let's keep going.
So I can choose a fundamental and have the overtone scale, or I choose an overtone and have the undertone scale. If I want to sing a special melody and there are melody notes that don't fit to the overtone scale from one fundamental, then I need to find another fundamental to sing this note. And for that, there are often different possibilities, and I choose this fundamental that fits harmonically best with the melody line. And for polyphonic singing, there are different...
I'm going to explain a little bit differently than what she just said, what she's talking about. Essentially, each note or each pitch has a series of overtones that are above it. The first one is an octave above. After that, there's a fifth above the octave, and then you get another octave essentially on top. So it goes, and then it goes like 1, 3, 5, 7, I think. So those overtones belong to a specific pitch. You can't just pick any pitch or any overtone within a scale to highlight above a certain pitch. So if you're trying to create a melody that's purely out of overtones, not out of the fundamental, not out of the vocal folds going wacka, 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 but out of the vocal tract creating a certain resonance to highlight a melody, you need to actually change the pitch that the vocal folds are vibrating at so that you can pick one of the inherent overtones that exist. This just kind of goes back to science, also goes back to how harmony developed, which is really, really cool and very nerdy, but we'll save it for another day. Let's keep going.
Possibilities to build scales and to move notes. So I can move the overtone with the fundamental in parallel. Or I can move the fundamental in steps. Or in smaller steps.
It's so nuts. Sorry, this is so crazy. It is so mind-boggling, mind-blowing, all of the terms. How much control she has over this. I've played this before. You can do Amazing Grace pretty easily, just creating this sound. Again, mouth isn't moving a lot. You're just going, essentially one pitch that you pick, and then you go for somewhere between E and U. My overtones are nowhere near as loud as hers. I have not worked on this or perfected it, but I know I have worked on it before and been able to do an Amazing Grace out of it. But to do what she's doing now, that is just so incredible to me. I've heard people that work off of essentially one note and creating a song on top in the overtones that feels like it's using the inherent overtones of that pitch they were creating. But the way she's moving the fundamental pitch and then using that to help construct an overtone melody on top is really, truly incredible. I'm going to come back over into Izotope now. Let's check this out. I'm going to move over. Boop, 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 boop. All right. So just for orientation, let's go back here and you'll hear what she just sang as you see it go by. Those two are fairly similar scientifically to what she's doing. Of course, she had to create a different mouth shape in order to achieve it. In this first one, you'll notice there's your fundamental down there, right? That's the speed that her vocal folds are creating a pitch at, right? This one looks like it's around, like maybe around 250 hertz, probably pretty close to middle C there. Oh, by the way, if you'd like to get a little perspective on hertz and how that relates to things at the piano, or maybe just speaking voices go from around 85 hertz, so 85 wacka-wackas per second, to 300 wacka-wackas per second. 85 is going to be your low bass male voice speaking. So that'd be around the lowest that a low male would speak at. And 300 would be essentially a high child's voice. And you have the stuff that's in between as well, of course. And then if you want to talk about on the piano, if you think about a low C, say like around a C2, I think that's about 65 hertz, I want to say. No, I'm totally wrong on that. No, I'm right on that, 65 hertz. So if I'm coming down to here, that's one of the lowest notes that basses regularly sing a C2, 65 hertz. Now if we go all the way up to a high C, to like a C6, that's going to be just a little bit above 1,000 hertz. I think it's 1,046 hertz. So over 1,000 times per second that the vocal folds are going wacka, wacka, wacka. As you go up, it actually gets exponentially higher. Some women can scream up to an F, around an F sharp 7. That's about 3,000 hertz. That's so fast. How do your vocal folds do that? It's incredible. I just think it's totally amazing. And then just one of the most common reference notes is going to be concert A. That's the A that orchestras tune to. That's about 440 hertz. So 440 times per second, the sound wave is going like this, and that's created by vocal folds going wacka, 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 440 times per second. Okay, back to here. So she's singing around a middle C when she starts. And if you count here, you go 1, 2, 3. She's highlighting the third overtone, which is actually exactly 2 octaves higher, just for those of you that are super interested in that. So she does that third overtone, and as she moves the fundamental pitch, she keeps highlighting the third overtone the whole time. Let's listen to that one more time. And in this second part there, she switched to highlight the fifth overtone the entire time. Again, really incredible control of all of that. Then in this part, I think when I first heard this video that was one of the moments that my jaw literally dropped. And I went, no way. How did she just do that? Because she's moving the fundamental pitch by quite a bit, and in doing so is able to create a little scale in her overtones. Really, really fascinating. So if you look at this, she highlights, let's go. She's highlighting in this part the 1, 2, third overtone. And then when she moves down, she switches her mouth and highlights the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the fifth overtone. But then on the next note, she's going to shift again and highlights 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth overtone. And then the next note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. She's shifting which overtone she is highlighting so precisely while moving the fundamental pitch. Mind totally blown. And then let's go over to this one too. I already feel so crazy impressed because of how fast she's able to do that. And when it happened with my ears, I thought, oh no, that couldn't actually be happening that fast. I must have imagined it because I really like major scales. But no, you pull it into RX8 and you see very clearly how fast she's able to highlight that extra overtone there. Wow. Totally, totally nuts. Okay, let's go back. Let's go to this last one. She sang this one too. It's kind of similar to a harmonic scale. I love the way she just plays at the end sometimes with these sounds. She's like, I'm going to add a little extra flair at the end, which is awesome. Notice in here as well, that top, it's not the top pitch she's singing, but it's the time she gets to the highest overtone that she's highlighting. You can see that it actually sets off a whole extra bit of highlighting. So the resonance in her vocal cavity at that moment is extremely powerful, but she's able to still just focus on this particular overtone, which you can see up here, 2,207 hertz and 276 over here. That's going to be, I think, around the C sharp again, I want to say. Wow. Okay, let's go back to her. Let her keep going.
I can also move the overtone and the fundamental in the opposite directions. And that scale also works in major.
I love this. She's so focused on being able to do a major and a minor scale because you can tell that she's thinking about how can we use this in more music today. This is not commonly used in music today. However, I know that she collaborates with a lot of different composers and musicians to try and bring this into more commonality, essentially. Make it a frequent thing for somebody to compose for polyphonic singing like this. It's so very amazing. Let's check that section out in Izotope. So this is a section with the minor scale. By the way, minor scale versus major scale It's just saying where the whole steps and half steps are. Half steps are the smallest interval that we use in Western music, and whole steps are actually made up of 2 half steps put together. So a minor scale goes whole step, well, from 1 to 2 is a whole step, from 2 to 3 would be a half step, 3 to 4 is a whole step, 4 to 5 is a whole step, and then back down. A major scale essentially changes where that half step occurs. So from 1 to 2, whole step, 2 to 3 is a whole step instead of a half step, and then 3 to 4 is where the half step happens in the major scale, and 4 to 5 is a whole step. So you can see that a little bit in here. If you just take a look, if you're watching up top, you can take a look at where this most prominent overtone is. You'll see that in the minor scale, it's going to be a little bit lower than where it is in the major scale. Let's listen to that again. One more thing to note in that section, there's a couple of times where there's essentially a little blip that happens in her phonation in that fundamental frequency of phonation. So that means that where the vocal folds themselves are creating the pitch, there's a little blip where maybe the phonation isn't as solid. That happened, I think, right around here. You can kind of see it in Izotope if I really zoom in on that point. You can see that there was a spot where it just was it wasn't as clean a phonation essentially. And what happens is if you look up here at this overtone that she's highlighting, it actually is weaker than the other ones. Often if you have not as strong, clean phonation, it's going to be harder to highlight the overtone above. That makes a lot of sense when you think about singing just from normal singers that aren't necessarily trying to highlight a specific overtone. When you get the most resonance in the sound, it tends to be when you have cleaner phonation. When you have more distortion in the sound where that phonation isn't as clean, it becomes more dirty, we'll get a sound block that looks not as clear in a lot of the overtones. So it's kind of a cool thing to notice here. But I will say, vibrato doesn't seem to affect her. If you look just at this section right there, you see the little wiggles. The overtone is staying just as bright, and often we'll actually see in opera singers that overtones become a little bit brighter when vibrato enters, which is crazy. Okay, one more time here.
And that scale also works in major.
Okay, again, you saw there was a little, in this particular note, the phonation wasn't as clean as some of the other ones. I mean, she's still doing a crazy good job. Don't get me wrong. We're just saying a little minusculely less clean, right? There's a little jiggle in there that happened that was a little instability. And you can see that the volume or the brightness of the overtone is not as bright as some of the other ones. All right, let's go back to Anna-Maria and let her keep going because she still has some more showing off to do.
And with these tools, I can sing, for example, folk songs in polyphonic solo voice.
I just like, the fact that she put this all together to really, truly, essentially sing a melody with her overtones on top and then create an accompaniment with a fundamental on the bottom, essentially like a bass line that she's created out of the fundamental pitch. Yeah, mind-boggling. I've never heard anything like it before. Okay, I'm gonna hop over to Izotope so we can see that last section. It is so very cool. Move forward a little bit here for you. Boop. Boop. Insane. Back to Anna-Maria one more time, because I think it's so important to look at how she's actually doing this with her lips as well. Watch the movements. Watch how sometimes she'll go more towards an E, just very, very subtle E versus oo. That'll give you some indication of which vowel she's using to create the higher overtone as well. Maybe in here? Here? Here we go. The whistle tone is so clear. So lovely.
Thanks for watching.
Shout out to Anna-Maria for creating this video. It is the best demonstration of overtone singing that I've ever encountered. There's so much education that we can draw from it. It is really fun to get in and analyze this, so thank you to all of you for being extra nerdy with me today. If you'd like to see some more analysis/reaction videos to extended vocal technique, I've created a playlist over here of that, and I hope to see you again soon.